Welcome to Ohio FFA Career Connection. Throughout this series, we will explore just a few of the vast career opportunities in Ohio agriculture. Whether you want to work on a farm or in an office, laboratory, field, or classroom, FFA prepares us to be successful. Together, we'll get to know various professionals and learn how we can jumpstart our future careers while still in FFA. Let's get started. I'm glad to be visiting with the Executive Director of Ohio Corn and Wheat, Tad Nicholson. Tad, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Jake. Glad to be here.
Let's start off by having you share a little bit about your background. How did you come to work in agriculture?
Well, I grew up on a small farm in Morrow County. Mount Gilead is my hometown. It was a smaller farm, kind of surrounded by larger farms. So like a lot of people, I would love to have gone back to the farm, but it was pretty evident right when I left that I wasn't going to be heading back to the farm, couldn't really support multiple families, those type of things. So when I went to college, I certainly knew that I needed to start networking in other areas to figure out what part of agriculture that I wanted to be involved with. But it was a grain farm. We also had some cattle. And so I kind of feel like I have a livestock background, which is, a little bit odd that I'm not working in a livestock commodity, but I have before. I have worked for the Cattlemen's Association in my history, but I kind of feel like a beef person. But working in the corn and wheat industry is great because it's really a combination of grain farming and livestock because it's a major user of our commodities. And so it was sort of that path that just sort of led me to know it really was never a consideration to work in any other industry, to be honest with you. I was always headed into something in agriculture. It was just figuring out where.
Yeah. Now, what was that like in high school? What high school did you go to? And you knew you were going to work in agriculture. Did you ever think you would be working for Ohio Corn and Wheat and working in agricultural leadership?
Well, it was, I don't know that anybody has it mapped out in high school as to where you're going to end up for sure. But I went to Mount Gilead High School. I was in an ag program there. Roger Beck was my advisor and our teacher in our agri-science. He was one of these guys that really enjoyed exposing students to all sorts of aspects of agriculture, a lot of different things that could be make you stretch your thinking a little bit to figure out where you want to fit. So in my time in FFA, and it was soil judging, livestock judging, the whole gamut of the activities that we could do back then. But just certainly enjoyed that experience that helps to kind of mold you into a future career in agriculture.
Now, what was maybe one of your favorite competitions? I know you said land evaluation, soils. Were you able to do any general livestock? And I know you had a beef background. So did you enjoy any of those CDEs?
Yeah, no, I said I did. I had a beef background, but I was never a good judge. I just wasn't one of the better ones. And so I really kind of enjoyed soil judging a little bit more. Hopping in a pit in a field was just, I don't know, something fun about it. It was analyzing the various types of soils that we had here. Just very intriguing to me. Just one of the favorite things I did.
I agree. It's pretty fun just to go in a random field and use the skills used in the classroom and finally compete with schools all over the area. So let's talk a little bit about your career. You're now working for Ohio Corn and Wheat. What did that look like before that organization? Was it always agricultural leadership, or how has your career evolved over time?
Yeah, well, so here's the career path anyway. So after college, I graduated at Ohio State. I have an animal science degree from Ohio State. And from there, I went into feed sales. I was, first of all, I was exposed. One of the most important things I did in college was have an internship at Select Sires. And I just say that was so important because I still, all these years later, I still keep in touch with the people that I worked with back then. That the formation of a network was so important to my growth and my progress through agriculture. And I just would never have had the opportunities had I not had other people that thought enough of me to start recommending, hey, you might want to take a look at hiring this guy or that. And it was a launch pad, I believe, from that time at Select Sires, which I again still hold very close to myself. I feel like I have a great deal of commitment even today to Select Sires, even though I haven't worked in that industry since college. And so it was something I always remember. But from there, I went into feed sales. I worked for a company called Country Mark, which doesn't even really exist anymore. It was a co-op through several mergers It was an organization that, I get to be with livestock producers, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, I couldn't believe they were paying me to go visit livestock farms. It was just a great thing to kickstart things. But it wasn't very long that I got to cut my teeth in the association world. I mentioned I worked for the Cattlemen's Association, and I went to work there not too long after graduated college. I had an opportunity to get a taste of the association world, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, it really kind of brought home why it's so important that we have associations, why any industry has a group of people that are sort of watching out for your best interest. And so very, very enjoyable. Then I got to go do something that was really intriguing too, and that was go to work for what was then ABN Radio and TV. You know it as Ohio AgNet today. It was a guy named Ed Johnson, who was he was before Dale Minyo. And so, but Dale and I worked together there. Ed Johnson was a guy that had a TV show, a radio program, and a magazine, Ohio's Country Journal, all kind of bundled together. Now, you didn't see me because I wasn't on air. I was the sales guy. So I was the sales manager for that, and it was very intriguing, and it got me exposed to, if you're in that type of work, you're exposed to lots of different ag businesses, and I just loved it because, again, I got to go and talk to everybody from equipment dealers to seed companies, chemical companies, and then associations like Ohio Corn and Wheat. It was one of my clients back then. And so opportunity opened up that I was able to come back into the association world, coming to work for Ohio Corn and Wheat. And that was 18 years ago, and haven't looked back. It's been a great career.
How did FFA help you prepare for a career?
Well, again, it was part of that whole idea of leadership. Didn't really know what it meant, when I was entering in as a freshman into an ag class, and just sort of the idea of leading, and just never crossed my mind that I should be, a leader. And so FFA is an organization, as you know, that fosters that. And I think it's fantastic because it really takes you wherever you go. You're going to need to have some sort of leadership, and that doesn't always mean wearing a title of executive director. Leadership is much more than that. It's how are you a good team member? How are you supporting your organization? How do you represent the brand that you're wearing, on that at any given time? And so from everything I did in agriculture and my entire path to getting here, it really stemmed back to the experiences in FFA and the ag classes, the working together, problem solving. How can I make my chapter better? It filtered into, how can I make my feed company better? How can I make Ohio Cattlemen's better? How can I make Ohio AgNet better? And now, I'm wearing the brand of Ohio Corn and Wheat with such pride, because I just represent a group of people that are very important to me. And it's the closest thing I think I can do to farming without actually farming myself. And so being able to represent them and take care of the needs of that group of people, it's very fulfilling. And I'm so proud of the path that I took and my start that I got back in my days at FFA.
Tad, tell us a little bit about your current primary responsibilities as executive director of Ohio Corn and Wheat.
So we call ourselves Ohio Corn and Wheat, but it's really to simplify things for other people to figure out what we do here. So, we're dealing with these two commodities, but we have two checkoffs here, and that's a checkoff program is really important to understand because it's really a funding mechanism. Back in 1989 is when the corn checkoff started in Ohio. And it was basically a time when farmers said, let's pool our dollars together so we could do things bigger and better than we do alone. And it was all about demand growth. How can we build markets in a specific commodity? Not unlike a lot of other commodities. Beef has it, pork, soy, lots of different commodities have these, but it's like honing in on the issues and the opportunities specifically coming from corn and now wheat as well. And so my day, I have 3 boards of directors. And so it's not unlike an FFA chapter where there's a board and there's an executive committee and there's meetings and you schedule those type of things. So a lot of that start that I got back in FFA still applies today. And we operate solely on these issues that are focused on corn and wheat farmers, grain farming in general. So on the association side, the Ohio Corn and Wheat Growers Association is one of the boards. The Ohio Small Grains Checkoff Board is another, and the Ohio Corn Checkoff Board is the third that we have in here. The 2 checkoff boards are all about demand growth. So there's exports ethanol, livestock production, anything that uses that commodity, that we want to make sure that we're moving commodity through. It's the only way that we could really, as farmers, build value to that commodity, because we're kind of price takers. And so this is one of the ways that we do that. From the association side, it's about policy, and it's really solely about public policy and how can we advocate for good public policy on behalf of grain farmers. And so we're dealing with, again, with energy issues for ethanol, but we also deal with farm bill, conservation titles, water quality, consumer education. These are all things that come into a day in the life at Ohio Corn and Wheat.
That's cool. And a lot of our students are learning to become advocates for agriculture. So they're attending the Ohio Legislative Leadership Conference at the State House, and maybe even attending Washington Leadership Conference. What does advocacy look like for your organization? Does it look like going to talk to legislators, both in the state of Ohio and nationally?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And it's really something that has been fascinating for me throughout my career to understand that it's really not as intimidating as many people make it out to be. And I think if you attend something like the Washington Leadership Conference, you start to understand that constituents like you and me are very important to any lawmaker. So whether they're a congressman, a senator, they need to get the opinion of the people back home. What do they think about these specific issues? And if no one speaks up on behalf of agriculture, they don't know. And so they need to have that flow of information come from organizations like Ohio Corn and Wheat to help them understand how farmers in Ohio feel about a vote that might be coming up. And so again, the fact that it's so intimidating to a lot of people is kind of frustrating, because I know that it's helping the congressman, it's helping the state representatives down in Columbus, it's helping the governor's office if we speak up. And so what we're really about is enabling corn farmers and wheat farmers to make their voice heard. And so it's just collectively, how can we express an issue, an opinion on an issue, and help a lawmaker make good decisions? We do that by setting policy, because we have to have a consensus as an organization. We need to reach out to our members to find out, where do you feel on XYZ issue? And then once we have that policy position, we have to make opportunities for our members to have their voices heard. So it spends a lot of time on how we can enable a corn farmer in Ohio to speak up to somebody in Congress.
Now, what is good for students when they want to do a legislative visit? How do they make a successful one? How can students prepare for a legislative visit?
Well, there is the best legislative visits are ones that are well prepared, and I've seen that whether it's students or adults that we're dealing with. Either way, you feel really confident if you're well schooled on a specific issue. And so we want to feed information to them, and I'm sure the students do too. They need to do a lot of reading up on the issues, figure out how it's going to impact them, and then tell a personal story. It's what a congressman wants to know is, what does this do to your specific farm or your specific business that you're operating? And that's really what matters to them most, because it helps them to solidify their own decisions and be able to back up their decisions once they cast that vote. So preparation can't be there can't be enough preparation when you're doing these type of things. We spend a lot of time on that, helping our members to be better prepared when it's time to speak up.
What education and training is needed to prepare you for a career like yours in agricultural leadership or working with commodity organizations?
Well, it's one of those things. I mentioned I have an animal science degree. Now, you may think, well, how does that qualify you to run an association? Well, I really encourage people not to get too bogged down into those majors and what degrees you have and those type of things, because in agriculture, there's so many pathways to get to a position like mine. It could have been in somebody that had a political science degree. They could have, had, that whole policy background that led them here. It could be business administration. Mine was animal science, and it's working just fine. And so I would encourage you not to limit your thinking on what careers might lay ahead just because you chose a specific major in school. It's really about life experience after school anyway that has better prepared you better prepared me anyway for my role today as executive director. And it's that network of people. I can't stress enough that it's the secret to my success has certainly been who I knew, who was supporting me, who were my resources, who could I go ask advice from. That group of people having together it was incredibly important for me to get to where I'm at.
What do you think some skills are that have helped you excel in your career?
Well, for me, it's mostly been communication. It's just been can you, and by that, you don't need to be a broadcaster. You need to have the ability to have a conversation. You need to be, some of those soft skills that we talk about. How reliable are you? How trustworthy are you? Those type of things I've learned to value even more than, what you know, because again, there's so many issues that we're dealing with in our line of work. I can't be an expert on every single one of them. I got to have other people that are going to help advise me on those things. And so being able to ask the right questions, being able to talk with people, study a little bit, but also be able to express my opinion about it. That's really what I think has been, again, the secret to success here.
Now, what do you enjoy most about your job? When you wake up in the morning, what makes you excited to go to the office or do a farm visit?
Well, it's like the people I came from or who I work for. It's farmers. Farmers in general are they're very enjoyable for me to work for because they're very sincere about what they're doing, but they're also a very vulnerable group. And when I say that, it's hard to believe when you look at some of the, especially some of today's large scale farms, you think they're not vulnerable. They're very strong. They look like they're very well organized. They're really working hard. But yet, when you think about agriculture in general, we enjoy a lot of independence. So we have lots of different farms doing it lots of different ways, but the policies that we're dealing with affect all farmers. And so as an individual farmer, I know that we can't affect the opinions of policymakers or demand growth through our checkoff programs or educating consumers. So difficult to do by yourself. When we do it together, that's it's very possible. Not only possible, it has to be that way. And so for me, I just enjoy the fact that I get to go to work for, on behalf of a population that I'm extremely close to, but also I know needs that organization. They need to have an association working on their behalf, whether it's policy or on demand growth. And so it's rewarding. It's rewarding to me.
And as an association, one of your biggest challenges is probably working with policymakers and lawmakers. What are some of the challenges that farmers in the field are facing that are growing corn and grain crops?
Well, so, in Ohio, we have water quality as one of our major issues, and it's just one of those things. We didn't pick it, it picked us. And so we have Lake Erie, which is a gem. It's something that we have to take care of. It's an asset of our state. So if you're going to farm in Ohio, forever, we have connected agriculture and the environment, and it's just going to be that way. There's just no ever separating it. So the decisions that we're making are always going to be about how do we produce the food that the world needs. And I think producing it is not going to be our major challenge. I think it's going to be, are we able to do it in a way that is right by the environment, and also being able to, there are other issues about hauling it and storing it, and some of these issues that are going to come with the success that we've had in increasing our productivity in agriculture. Being productive has not been our issue. But back to the water quality conversation, though, is one of the things that we are concerned about is, because we know there's not one way to farm, there's also not one way to take care of water quality. There's no silver bullet, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So there's nothing that we could say as an organization. If everybody farms this way, we got this whole Lake Erie thing licked. We're good. It's just not going to be that simple. So the concern is that we don't run out of time, we don't run out of innovation, that we don't run out of patience, especially by our lawmakers, that cause them to say, gosh, we're going to have to come in and just tell farmers how they're going to farm. We can't have that. It's not one of the things. And it's one of the things that makes a lot of farmers very concerned, and so we want to make sure, but we're making huge progress. I'm so proud of the things that agriculture has done in the state. It's just so fun to be able to watch this progress go along and then report on those things. And we're having to do some things today that we've never done before. And that's sort of opened ourselves up to public scrutiny and saying, a lot of times you've seen this in high school, farmers love to have classes come out and see their operations. It's one of the favorite things of students, but it's also fun for farmers to be able to show this type of thing. The problem we have is there's not enough time or enough farmers to be able to bring every consumer out to say, here's what we do on our farm. Here's why we do these things on our farm. And without that, there's some assumptions that get made by the consumers. And by consumers, I'm talking about there's only about less than 2% today of people that are actually working on a farm. That means there's about 99% of the people that are not on the farm and they have natural questions. And it's on us to maintain that social license to farm. We got to answer those questions. And I'm happy to do that. And every farmer I know is happy to do that. It's just, how do we get that done? That's going to be one of our biggest challenges going forward. How do we make sure that we're communicating to enough people that they're comfortable and they trust the way that we're producing food today?
Now, agriculture is important in Ohio, and your leadership is important to Ohio, but tell us about how you stay engaged nationally and the importance of bringing states together, whether that's an association or some of those national boards that you sit on.
Well, Ohio FFA is affiliated with all the other FFAs in the country. We too are affiliated with the other corn and wheat organizations around the country. And so we have organizations like the National Corn Growers Association, which we are a member of, the National Association of Wheat Growers. For exports, we're dealing with the U.S. Grains Council. They have assets and offices all over the world. U.S. Wheat Associates, all these things are the way that we connect an Ohio farmer to this larger population of national farmers. Because honestly, and I grew up in Mount Gilead, a small town, small farm. We were happy there, really never gave too much thought to, what went on elsewhere. But later on in my career, I found out whether we knew it or not, we were farming in a world market. And that is so important for people to understand today. Everybody, whether you go back into farming or you're working in some sort of ag business like mine, you have to have an understanding that we are operating in a world market, and it can never be different than that. We're always going to be working in that same world market.
You grew up in and around agriculture, but obviously you've learned a lot through the various positions you've had. What advice would you give to a student who doesn't feel like they're qualified to lead in an agriculture-related job?
First of all, the growth and leadership is never ending. I mean, I look for growth opportunities myself all the time, and sometimes they're very purposeful. So I, put myself through training today, and I wish there were more opportunities for it, but the growth pattern, I think, is forever. What's made us a great organization is this diversity in age, diversity in gender, any diversity we're able to get. It makes us a better organization. We attack the issues in different ways when we have a diverse group of people around us. And so I just really want to encourage everyone, step up, whether you feel like you're prepared or not. If your peers say you are, you are.
Those are some great words. I think all students can relate to that. We all come from diverse backgrounds, and especially folks watching right now could come from a farm. They could come from urban. So anyone can get to any position they really want to be in. What advice would you give to a student interested in working in a career similar to yours in agribusiness?
Well, there's a lot of opportunities today for study abroad. And I know COVID's kind of made things a little bit difficult on that, but any opportunity you have to expose yourself to that world market. And again, it doesn't have to come into an organization like ours that deals with exports and that understanding. Could be a seed company, could be equipment companies. Every part of agriculture today is working in this world market. And to better understand that at a young age, I think gives students a real asset. In fact, one of the things that I always look for when there's an intern application or something like that is I'm always looking for those international experiences. Did they have an opportunity? Did they take the opportunity to study abroad? Did they have any kind of exposure to this world market at all? I really feel like it gives students a leg up. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, and this is something that's kind of been personal to me, I mentioned our work in water quality. And one of the things that me and when I was young, I would have never considered a career in or a major in environmental sciences. And I really feel like because agriculture is so married to the environment today, that we have to have more farm kids starting to look at the environmental sciences major and in some of the careers that are involved there. There is no lack of work there. There is job security in the environmental science area. And to have more farm kids at that farm background, farm mindset, working at places like EPA even, which has traditionally been one of those that agriculture and the EPA just didn't speak the same language. That has to change. And I think it's going to change if we can encourage more farm students to give a thought to the environmental sciences and that all of the different careers that offers.
Now, what do you think a student can start doing now to prepare for a career in agribusiness or animal science like yours was originally?
Yeah. Well, again, I mentioned that network of people, and I know that it's again hard. And COVID has made that a little bit more difficult. But to build the network of people, and so you do that through internships, the exposure that you have to yourself, to other parts of the industry, and you may know now you don't want to work in a specific industry. Let's say it's you have a greenhouse nearby, but you're thinking it's probably not a path that I want to go. Still, those are great opportunities for you to go to get exposed to other areas of agriculture where it's going to benefit you in the future. It's the diversity of your experiences, the diversity of the people that you surround yourself with, and then keep a really good list, and keep in contact. The time spent networking is time well spent, and it's one of the things I wish I did better when I was younger. But it's also one that I can look back on and think those were really beneficial times when I was able to form those relationships, and they all have paid off for me in the future.
Now, Ohio Corn and Wheat is a proud partner of the Career Connection videos that folks are listening to right now. Why does Ohio Corn and Wheat invest in FFA members?
Well, this sounds funny, but it's not simply philanthropy. It's not simply a donation. We expect a return on this. I mean, we have to build this next wave of agriculturalists. Our board of directors knows that, and we need to have the next plant pathologist out there. We need to have the next chemist that's working in an ethanol plant. We need to have, the next, person that innovates in equipment that allows us to be more productive in agriculture. And that, I think, starts with FFA. I mean, it's the development of our next wave of agriculturalists is truly an investment. It's not just a donation. It's a true investment. So no pressure, Jake, but we do expect a return on this investment. So we expect big things from FFA.
Tad, thanks for taking the time to talk to me today. More importantly, thank you to Ohio Corn and Wheat for making this Career Connection series possible. Students like me are so thankful to be able to learn about the vast career opportunities in agriculture because of your support. FFA develops our potential and helps us discover our talent through hands-on experiences, which gives us tools to achieve real-world success. If you're interested in pursuing a similar career path to the one highlighted in this video, there's a couple ways in which you can get started. One option to dive in and learn more is through a supervised agricultural experience. While completing an SAE, you will cultivate valuable employability skills while gaining work experience as a volunteer, paid employee, or maybe even as your own boss. To learn more, talk to your ag teacher or visit saeforall.org. In addition, through career development events, you can put your knowledge to the test. Ohio FFA offers more than 40 CDEs. Here are a few CDEs that can help you further explore this career path. Ask your FFA advisor for more information about how to get involved. As FFA members, it's important for us to start making these connections and finding future possibilities that align with our interests. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Ohio FFA Career Connection, which is made possible by Ohio Corn and Wheat. Thanks for tuning in.